side. Miss Mei Lin died.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to chapel. First of all, I wanted to say thank you for being here, even though you didn't really have much of a choice. Thank you for being here and listening to me. My hope is that I can say something to challenge you or encourage you, and I know that I'm not perfect, and I try to be, I really do try to be, but I am not perfect, and this message is for me just as much as I hope it can be for you. So if you'll go to the next slide. As you can see, my message is going to be about trusting God, and honestly, this is something that I do struggle with in my walk with God. It has impacted me. I mean, everyone needs to trust God, or we all trust something, but I want to tell you today, I think you should learn I want to show you how you can trust God. Okay, next slide. The pictures up here don't really have anything to do with the story I'm going to tell you, but I'm about to tell you a story. So, when I was about 2 or 3 years old, I was in my living room, and I was dressed up in a wedding gown, and I was pretending that I was going to a wedding, and I was like marching around. And in our living room, we had 2 couches, and I like put my hand on one, and then my other hand on the other, and I was swinging back and forth, and I was saying, "I'm going to a wedding," and I was just playing. And eventually, I slipped and I fell on my face, and it's the only story that I really remember from my childhood, because every time I do something clumsy or almost mess up, my parents say, "You're going to a wedding." So it's kind of funny, but also I got to thinking about it. I put trust in myself to be able to swing back and forth on the couches. I put trust in the couch to hold me, and I probably put trust in my parents to catch me if I fell. And even though I was 3 and I wasn't really thinking about it at the time, I was putting trust in things and in people and myself. And that's what I want to talk about today. Like, you can't put trust, as much as you try to trust yourself or the things around you or even people, everything will ultimately fall short, because no thing and no one will ever compare to the confidence that we can have in Jesus. Today I'm going to read from Exodus 14. But first I'm going to give a little backstory. So it's the story of the Israelites, of God leading the Israelites out of Egypt. And they had been in slavery for 430 years. So they were, if you know anything about slavery, it's not good, it's not fun. And so God called Moses to lead the people out. And Moses overcame a lot as he was leading the Israelites out. And Pharaoh was over the Israelites. And Moses went to Pharaoh and said, "Let God's people go." And Pharaoh said, "Okay, sure." And then he would change his mind, and Pharaoh would say, "Nope, you can't. I'm not going to let your people go." So this happened back and forth for seven times. And I'm picking up in verse 5, and it says, "When the king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, Pharaoh and his officials changed their minds about them and said, 'What have we done? We have let the Israelites go and have lost their services.' So he had his chariot made ready and took his army with him. He took 600 of the best chariots along with all the other chariots of Egypt, with officers all over them. The Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, so that he pursued the Israelites, who were marching out boldly." And then I'm going to skip to verse 10. As Pharaoh approached, the Israelites looked up, and there were the Egyptians marching after them. They were terrified and cried out to God. They said to Moses, "Was it because there were no graves in Egypt that you brought us to the desert to die? What have you done to us by bringing us out of Egypt? Didn't we say to you in Egypt, 'Leave us alone. Let us serve the Egyptians'? It would have been better for us to serve the Egyptians than to die here in the desert." brings me to my first point, which is true trust in God is personal and specific. I want to point out that it wasn't until after the Israelites looked back and saw the Egyptians that they got scared and they lost their trust in God. I think a lot of times, I know for me, like, I struggle with comparison. I mean, we all do it. If you want to be competitive at sports, if you want to fit in, you always have to look to your neighbor and see what they're doing, see what you need to do. But at the end of the day, God has a plan that's unique for each one of us. And your story will not look like your neighbor's story or your best friend's story, your parents' story, or your role model's story. As awesome as that story might be, God has a story that's for you and it's for no one else. And I think that we lose that trust and we lose the desire to follow God's plan when we start looking at other people's plans or other people's lives and we think, I wish I could do that, or I wish I could be there, because I know I do that. The other point that I want to make is that I feel like we shouldn't be too focused on the people around us, because when we focus on the people around us, we might miss the opportunity that God has for us. The second point that I want to make is true trust has a cost. And then I'm going to explain the thing, because I did try to use alliteration. But then the more I started thinking about it, I was like, this is kind of true. So pride. In order to trust God, you have to surrender your pride or yourself. And to me, that's like saying to God, like, your plan is better than my plan. You know better than I know. And it takes a lot. It takes a lot to do that. It takes a lot to tell yourself, I'm wrong and God's right. Or maybe even your parents, like, I'm wrong and you're right. And then people, God may be calling you to do something that doesn't include the people around you. That's not bad, but and it's kind of hard at times, but God might be calling you to do something that's outside of your comfort zone. And it's scary if you have to do it alone, but you have to trust God and trust that He's going to take care of you and He has the perfect plan. And then pasts. Don't let your past dictate your story. Everybody has moments that they're not afraid of, but when you trust God, you have to know that when you become a Christian, He takes your past away and He wipes your slate clean, and you have to give that up. And it's really hard to give up your past and everything that you've done and really trust God. And then I also think that past don't always have to be a bad thing. Your past can be a good thing, like something that you know and trust, like your background, and it's hard to like give up what you've always known and you know that you like. Some of you may know Grace Davis. She graduated here last year, and she's not perfect, but I thought she was a perfect example of someone who is really trusting God. So Grace she left like 2-3 days ago on the world race. And the world race is, for her, it's a 9-month mission trip, and she's going to be traveling all over the world doing mission work. And she's not going to have Wi-Fi, Starbucks, clean clothes, a hot shower. She's not going to have any of that for 9 months. But and I know just because from talking to her that it was a really hard step for her to take, but she's trusting God, and so maybe, hopefully, one day she'll come back and share of her victories from trusting God, which is my last point. Can you go to the next slide? Yeah, I'm going to read in verse 13 first. It says, Moses answered the people, "Do not be afraid, stand firm. You will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still." I'm not saying that when you trust in God, you'll always win at everything, even though that would be nice. But I'm saying that when you trust in God, it's a victory because you always have Him to fall back on, because He will never leave you or forsake you. I thought I I would share a few of my struggles and what I'm struggling and continually trying to trust God in more. So the first thing is college. I'm a senior, and so next year I'll be graduating. And that's really a scary thing for me because I've been here since kindergarten, and I love this school. I love all the teachers here and all the people here, and it's a really scary thought to think about leaving this place because there's really not another school like this. But I have to remember, like, God has a college selected for me, and some of you are in 7th and 8th grade, maybe 9th grade. You're not even thinking about college because I know I wasn't. But just know that wherever you go, whatever you do, even here in high school, we might be thinking like, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? What am I going to study? What classes am I going to take? Will I be with my friends? Just know that God has you in His hands, and He has a plan for you that's way better than yours. And in the end, you will see that. And I wanted to be completely honest. Like, when I was preparing to speak, I changed what I was going to talk about several times, and Anna told me God will convict you, and He has. And so I thought I would share this other thing that I am struggling to trust God with, and that's when I see, I'm struggling to trust God with my relationships. When I see pictures on Instagram of cute couples, and I just, a part of me is really happy for them, and then another part of me is just wondering and questioning God. Will I find the one? And I know that's way far off, but I really have been working on trusting God that He has a man for me that I will one day marry, maybe in next year, maybe 5 years from now. And so that's another area where I'm struggling to trust God. But I just wanted to say, graduation and marriage is not the end goal. Trust in God is the end goal. Acceptance letters, relationships, athletic abilities, academic abilities, they can be here one day and gone the next. But the word of the Lord stands forever, and Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And so that is why that I am trying to trust God. And that's what I want to challenge you today. The Egyptians you see today, you will never see again. What is standing in your way from trusting God completely? I challenge you to think about that, pray about that, and ultimately give everything to God. Let's pray. Dear Lord, thank you so much for today and for letting me come speak here this morning. I pray that you will be with me and help me to trust you more, and I pray that you would help everyone here at this school to trust you more. And I know that we're all going through different things, and we all struggle with different things, but we all need to know that you love us and you care about every detail about us, and that I pray that you will show us that we can trust you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.